Okay. Vikings did not play this week, of course. It was the bye week. And I think we all needed the bye week because we've had, you know, 6 weeks of heart failure. Um, but, you know, I think we learned some stuff about the Vikings. And both just seeing some narratives blow up and seeing some things that I think like put it this way, I came away from this day almost we're not a lock to make the playoffs, but it like I almost don't see how they can't unless they absolutely go in the tank, which has happened. But um, but just as far as the playoffs, and I know just making the playoffs is not the it's not the goal. It's not what they're aspiring to. But you got to get in first. I mean, like that's the you know you know every season with the Vikings, like first thing is get in the playoffs. So I'm looking at I'm not conceding the North, even though the Packers won again today. The Packers schedule actually toughens up now, so the Packers have had it pretty fucking easy. We've been playing a tougher schedule to this point than the Packers, that's for sure. Um, so their schedule starts to toughen up because they got to go play the Cardinals now on Thursday. They got to play Baltimore. They got to play a lot of the same teams that we do still. But I'm not conceding the North, but just in terms of getting in the playoffs, like there's like 5 teams that I think are for sure are going to be in, and every year there's always one or two teams that either by this point in the year, we're not quite to the halfway point, but they look like locks, and then they collapse, and there's always one or two that look like they aren't going to get in, and then they go on a surge. Um, I mean, even the Vikings last year, they were 1-5, and then they were technically in a playoff spot in December for a very brief, shining moment. Um, but I think Arizona still undefeated. The fucking Tampa Bay punks. They're gonna walk away with the South easily. I mean, they have the easiest schedule in the history of the world, so they're gonna probably end up with the number one seed. Um, Dallas is gonna run away with the East, so there's 3. Green Bay is gonna get in some capacity, so there's 4, and the Rams are gonna get in, so there's 5. So, um, and the Vikings finished last week technically in a playoff spot. They were technically in the number 7 spot. They're technically in the number 7 spot still because you know you know this whole weekend was very good for the Vikings for kind of hopefully being able to kind of establish themselves going forward as like they're definitely a playoff team because you look at the fucking NFC, there are not many good teams. Like this is not a year where there's a ton of good teams. There, like I thought it was going to be a year where there were going to be a lot of like legitimately solid NFC teams contending for the playoffs. I don't really think that anymore because there's a bunch that are worse than expected. And one of those is Seattle, and they're going to get Russell Wilson back at some point, but we have already beaten them and we have a better record than them, so not really too worried about them. Technically, the Saints are ahead of us because they have played one less game and have one less loss, but I'm not really worried about them too much. And the 49ers just got beat on Sunday Night Football. They were kind of a mess. The Bears are a disaster. The Eagles aren't good. There's really no teams, you know, that are technically below us right now that scare me at all. Like, and I don't think they should scare anybody. Atlanta maybe. I mean, Atlanta's, you know, I don't think Atlanta's very good, but I mean, they still have Matt Ryan. They can still win some games, but like I don't look at it that you know any of these teams are going to go on a run. None of them look like they're going to go on a run, except for maybe if Seattle gets Wilson back. So, yeah, the Vikings have a really tough schedule. I mean, when all is said and done, I mean, remember when we lost to the Bengals in Week 1, and it was looked at as like, how dare you lose to the Bengals? This was your gimme game. The Bengals right now are the number one seed in the AFC. They went into Baltimore and just kicked the shit out of the Ravens. Like, the Bengals are legit, not just like, oh, they're better than we think. No, they're legitimately very good. And if not for a phantom fucking fumble that I'm never gonna let go, we probably beat them in their building. Um, and then of course week 2 we almost beat the fucking Cardinals. Top seeds in the AFC and AFC, and we were one play from beating both of them. And I know it's been rehashed a billion zillion times that there's still losses. You don't get credit for almost winning tough games, but you know I still think there's something to you can take away from that. But you know, what was I talking about before I went on to the Bengals? They're showing the Bengal highlights, so I was thinking of that. Um, but um, I just I think the Vikings are clearly the best team of what are now the wild card contenders. Like we have to do some stuff to catch the Packers because we're 2 losses behind the Packers, and they've played one more game now than us too. So I mean, but we still get them twice. They still have to play a lot of tough games. We will have our opportunity to maybe try to catch the Packers, but for now we are in the wild card hunt, and I think they're the best team for sure of those wild card teams. I think they could. Boy, I mean, I kind of got them on like 10-7 right now. If they get to 10-7, I think they're a lock. If they get to 10-7, I think they've clinched before the last week of the season. Because I just don't see how any of these other teams, the Giants or Washington or Philly or the Bears. I don't see how any of these teams are going to even end up winning. Even 9 games. I just don't see it. I mean, these teams are just not good, and the Vikings, I think, are good, and I still think the Vikings' best performances are ahead of them. And honestly, I get it. I know it's not the goal. It's not the goal to just get in the playoffs and be a wild card. But I think if they do get in, you know, they're going to have gotten in winning some tough games and beating some good teams. And, they're going to be kind of battle tested. And, then get in the playoffs and you got a shot. You know, they could be that team that nobody wants to really deal with in the playoffs. Um, but, and I know, and I'm sure I haven't actually seen anyone bringing these up, but I'm sure they'll bring it. The Fire Zimmer crowd, the people who want to constantly tear down the Vikings. They'll bring up the fact that the Carolina Panthers today, after taking us to OT last week, they got beat like 25-3 by the Giants, and Darnold got benched, and they were just awful. And so they'll use that against us. But then we also saw the Lions kind of give the Rams all they could handle in LA. So, you know, it's kind of, it's annoying to have to kind of do it week to week. Like, well, we didn't blow this team out, but look at what this team did to someone else. Like, we're not going to blow teams out. This is the identity of the Vikings this year is they're gonna play a lot of close games. They're not going to blow teams out. That's just how it is. They're not going to go. They're not going to go into Baltimore and win 41-17 in a couple weeks. It's just not going to happen. That's just not their MO. But that too, I think, like just the fact that they can, they've already played a lot of close games. I don't think that's going to phase them to play close games. I think they're going to be all right. Um, so yes, I think the Vikings are. I don't know what. I'm sure someone keeps track of. There's some site probably that keeps track of like playoff odds. I'm sure the Vikings playoff odds went up this weekend because I think every team basically below them in the NFC, except for like the Giants, I guess, lost because the fucking Bears lost and the Panthers lost and Washington lost and the 49ers lost. And you got what Saints Seahawks tomorrow, so someone's going to lose there. I mean, I think they got a great chance to make the playoffs. But just beyond the thing, uh, and now they're showing the Bears, so let's talk Justin Fields. Hey, remember when all these fucking Vikings fans thought Justin Fields was going to Canton? Remember all the fucking bitching and moaning from this fucking fan base on draft night when we didn't get Justin Fields, when we didn't mortgage the entire fucking future to go up and get Justin Fields, and not doing that was going to doom us to, 10 years of failure, as Justin Fields was going to just light up the division and dominate the league. I hate to fucking say I told you so. Oh, wait, I don't hate to say I told you so because I fucking love to say I told you so. These fucking fans, and it's, you know, coming into the season, there were so-called Vikings fans who were rooting for Justin Fields to be awesome and for Kirk Cousins to suck. And they were. And they probably still are, but they have to have been humbled by now because Field is awful. And I know he's a rookie. Like you get like I don't think the Bears are going to release Justin Fields, but I can't think of an example of there's always rookie quarterbacks who struggle, even highly drafted ones. I can't remember one who was drafted at top 10 like Fields. I can't remember a guy. I think he was top 10, or highly drafted, who was this fucking pitiful at the start and went on to be like a really good quarterback or a star quarterback. I can't think of one. I mean, there's probably been one, but I certainly can't think of one. You always see something from these guys, even like like Trevor Lawrence is not playing great, but I mean, you're at least seeing something from him. Even the Zach Wilson, you're seeing something from him. You know, Fields, nah, and he's getting worse, and he might get the coach fired. I mean, we don't even play the Bears until I think I think we play them for the first time. It's like a week before Christmas. They're probably gonna have a different coach by then. I mean, that's a good thing because then we're struggling against Nagy teams. I don't know, but who knows if Field is even starting a quarterback by then. So I mean, it's unfair to write him off, but it is fair to say that and there was stories that came out that supposedly we did try to move up. I don't know how much validity there is to that. If we did try to trade up, and if we did try to trade up, were we trading up, trying to get Fields? But if we were, I think we really dodged a fucking bullet. Like the saying is, sometimes the best trades are the ones you don't make. Because we right now now to be fair, Justin Fields would not have seen the field yet. Kirk would have still been our guy, but like I didn't see it coming into the draft with Fields. I don't see it now. I see it even less now. I don't see it. I don't see it. Anything. I never saw anything like other than, I mean, sure, he was good in college, but a lot of guys are good in college. There was nothing to indicate that he was going to come into the league and be a star, but people convinced themselves of it, and they did it. Viking fans did it in part because they hate Rick Spielman and they hate Kirk Cousins and they hate this current iteration of the team, and they just want everything to change, and they saw that as a means to changing it. If we can get Justin Fields and move on from Kirk, but we don't want to move on from Kirk. And fucking show the Washington highlights. Remember when everyone was talking about, oh, we should have if only we kept Taylor Heineke instead of Kirk, then we'd even be better. Like, my favorite thing today was just watching all these narratives of the idiot fans and the Kirk haters just implode. It was so much fun watching these things happen. You know, and not to even dump on Taylor Heineke. I mean, he's an overachiever. Like, nothing against him, but it's like there were actually people who wished we had him over Kirk. They're insane. These people are nuts. Um, um, and the game I watched most of today was Chiefs and Titans, and I thought that there was some an interesting Vikings perspective there. Not just because I kind of like seeing a team like the Titans succeed because they are, you know, you know, they are very focused on the run, and I like seeing teams that are focused on the run succeed because I hate this belief in the NFL that if you do anything other than throw the ball 60 times a game, you're doing it wrong. Um, but you know, um, but what's happening with Mahomes and what's happening with the Chiefs, you know, I, what have we heard for like 3 years for the previous 3 years with Kirk Cousins? Why is he's paid highly? He's great. If you're a truly great quarterback, you just automatically overcome everything around you. If anything around you is going poorly, if you're having a bad offensive line performance, well, you're just supposed to overcome that. If your defense is bad, you're just supposed to overcome it. And if you don't, then you're not a good quarterback. Well, what are we seeing with the fucking Chiefs this year in Mahomes? That offensive line that got destroyed in the Super Bowl, which I thought that Super Bowl was going to finally teach people the lesson that a a really bad offensive line can make even the very best quarterback. And I still think he's struggling this year. I still think Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I do, um, but he's being destroyed by the same two things that have kind of fucked over Kirk. Particularly the offensive line, and of course now, and their defense, you know, has been very bad, and that combination, like even Mahomes can't really overcome it. At least not against really good teams because they've lost to all the real good teams they've played. This is how it is, and you know this same stuff has gone against Kirk a lot since he's been here, but the narrative has been, well, this is Kirk's fault, and if he's not overcoming it all the time, then he's just not that good. Well, I don't think anyone's really in dispute that Patrick Mahomes is great, but even he ain't overcoming it. 27-3 today. They have a losing record. And if you want to chalk it up to the Super Bowl loser curse, which I will never doubt again, um, you know, this is how it is. This is how football works, and people, it's driven me nuts for years here, having people not fucking grasp this concept. Like every time Kirk has had a bad game with the Vikings, it's been because the offensive line was bad. You know, it doesn't mean the quarterback is with ever without blame. You can never criticize anything, but just pay attention to what you're seeing. Like if you're not blocking for a guy, if you're not blocking for your quarterback, it's going to go badly. And then if your defense is terrible, on top of that, it's going to go even worse. And that's what Kirk was dealing with a lot last year, and even a little bit this year. You know, and he may deal with it some more because I mean, I don't think Vikings are gonna come out of the bye and just be shutting teams down. Like this is how it is, and you know, I hope people kind of learn. I hope people kind of learn the lessons. But I know what's coming. I think I said in the last video, it's going to be coming. The second Kirk has a bad game again, all the fucking vultures are going to come back out after him. Even if his bad game is, or his perceived bad game is because the offensive line sucks on a particular day, or the defense is bad, and they just can't keep up with scoring. You know, but this is how it is. A lot of quarterbacks never have to deal with it. Tom Brady never has to deal with having a bad defense ever. He never has to deal with a bad offensive line. Aaron Rodgers has had to deal with bad defenses. Never has to deal with an offensive line that's getting him killed. Most other quarterbacks do. Russell Wilson's been getting killed for the last couple of years with Seattle. But it's like you can't. It's not as simple as, well, you're paid a lot, so you have to overcome it all, or if you don't overcome it, then we can't consider you an elite quarterback. It doesn't work that way, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it again. We're seeing it with Mahomes. We see it with other quarterbacks, but I mean, Mahomes is like the most high-profile example, and it's just. I hope people pay attention to these things and learn a thing or two, because I'm tired of, whether it's in video form or social media or wherever, trying to teach these fucking people who can't learn. And of course, it's interesting. I find it very interesting how, what was the free agent that we didn't sign that everyone was losing their fucking mind about? Oh, we didn't get Joe Thuney. Why didn't we didn't spend a fortune to get Joe Thuney? And of course that was, oh well, we can't because Kirk's contract is killing the team, and so we can't afford to. That old chestnut that will never go away. Which of course is a fucking lie, because that's not how that works either. But it's like, oh, we didn't sign Joe Thuney. How could we not? Well, guess what? The Chiefs went out and signed Joe Thuney. They threw a fortune at him, and their offensive line is just as bad, and he's not good, and that looks like a terrible fucking contract. So again, it's like sometimes the best trades are the ones you don't make. Sometimes the best contracts are the ones you don't make. What are they? Orlando Brown is the other one the Chiefs got. Like they spent a fortune to upgrade that offensive line after the Super Bowl last year, and it's a disaster. It's just as bad. Vikings took the track that they wanted to keep building it through the draft and building with young guys, and we'll see. The early returns on Darisaw are very good. I think we haven't got Wyatt Davis out there yet. I think we will pretty soon, especially if Udo has any more awful games like the Carolina one. But like right now, it certainly looks like the track that the Vikings decided to take with their offensive line, how they wanted to put that together, is the smarter play. Because we could have gone out there and, like, people act like we couldn't have signed Joe Thuney. Sure, we could have. They could have made it work. They wouldn't have been able to make as many additions on defense, and a lot of the additions on defense have proved to be very good. We could have signed Thuney. We could have kept Reef if they'd wanted. It's just all the same shit. It's like, oh, Kirk's killing the cap because his contract is an albatross and he's overpaid. It's like, no, he's not. It's just not. It's like these narratives. They're just mind-numbing. Now, thankfully, I'm not hearing it as much now, but it's coming if the second Kirk has another bad game, or the team loses, or whatever. But we're seeing it all around. Like, just because there's a free agent out there, it doesn't mean it's necessarily the right move to go throw a fortune at that free agent. There are different ways to do it. It doesn't mean the Vikings' way of doing it is always right. Like, again, 2 off seasons ago where they let all those defensive stars go, that was probably not the right decision. But it wasn't a money thing. They can always make it work with money. I think they probably got something in the works, maybe with that Weatherly trade, clearing some cap space. You know, I don't think they're going to get the guy from Miami, but you know, I think they can maybe make some move and pick up somebody. But like they always make it work with money. If they it was not an issue of we can't afford to sign a guy. It's like they just chose not to make that move, and it's looking like that was a smart move. They didn't go and sign Joe Thuney. They didn't trade up for Justin Fields. They've kind of done it the right way, I think. But no one wants to hear that because the fire Zimmers, the fire Spielmans, the Kirk haters, the Kirk Cousins derangement syndrome crowd. A lot of them just will not let it go. But I think if you pay attention to what's going on in some of these other games around the league, other teams, I think you can kind of learn something. It can be very educational, and doesn't mean they can never criticize Zimmer, Spielman, Cousins, other players, but I think they've shown with the moves they did make this past offseason and didn't make that they're doing it the right way. And it gets to now where we are. We're just 3-3. We're not planning the parade routes or anything yet, but I think they're well positioned to make a real run after the bye in an NFC that is much more manageable than it looked maybe 6 weeks ago or 7 weeks ago. And week from tonight, from right this moment when I'm doing this, Dallas game will be over. We'll see what happens. I think they got a real good shot to win that game. And, then you get Baltimore, and Baltimore just got the shit kicked out of them at home by a team that we almost beat. So, and then you play a Charger team that got the shit kicked out of them by the team that just got the shit kicked out of them by Cincinnati. It's just how it is. I don't see any game left on the schedule that is a guaranteed loss by any stretch. I don't necessarily see many guaranteed wins. I mean, I see a lot that they should win, but I can't see the clock with the white on white here. Let me see here. Oh my, I've been going a half hour again. I gotta fucking learn how to get these things cranked out quicker. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on the first purple-free Sunday of the season. I think things worked out very nicely for the Vikings, just to kind of push us a little further along in the quest to get to the playoffs. And we learned some things. We learned that some narratives that have been anti-Vikings for years are total BS, and these people who believe them should probably not open their mouths again. That would be best for everyone. Just, don't speak unless you know what you're fucking talking about. Justin Fields ain't going to Canton. Not signing Joe Thuney is not the tragedy of the world. Losing to the Bengals was not, a fireable offense. And even, playing close games against the Lions or Panthers is not the end of the world. It's a good team. And we are going to go to the playoffs. And I will lock that in. That is a fucking prediction right now. Of course, I picked them to go to the playoffs before the season started, but I'm doubling down. The Vikings are going to the playoffs this year. I will not bet financial stuff on it yet. We're a little early to bet money on that. But yes, this team is going to play pretty well out of the bye. They're going to win some games, and they don't have to win a lot of games in the NFC to get in, but I think they will. I think they'll get to at least 9 or 10 wins, and they will get into the playoffs. And hey, if we can take down the Packers a couple times, they're taking the North, and one way or the other, they're going to be, a dangerous team to play in the playoffs.